Hello guys. I think I figured out what to do with all of the tomatoes and peppers that I have. But first, I gotta feed the chicken nuggets their lunch. They're just a bunch of voracious little abominations. It's crazy. Look at that scratch. It's from a claw. Both the girls and the nuggets over there are going through like a 5-gallon bucket of water a day. So I need to start remembering to fill it up in the morning in case I'm gone all day, because we don't want them running out of water. It's so hot. I also have something to show you. We have beans. Just a few have popped up, but I see a lot more germinating in most of these holes. And all it took was watering 3 times a day for the last 2 weeks. So in an effort to not waste as many plants that I planted as possible, I've just decided I'm gonna gather together a bunch of pots that I have, like pretty large ones like this, and put various tomatoes and peppers in them in the garden. I tried this last year, but whatever got my tomatoes in the raised bed also got my tomatoes in the pots, which is why I think it was a pest problem. So we're gonna try it again because I don't like being defeated and giving up on something. And I have 2 of these pots. I'm gonna put 1 tomato in each, and then I have this super large one, and I think I'm gonna throw 3 peppers in, because peppers like to be planted close together. They don't mind that at all. And I can get rid of 3 plants in 1 pot rather than 1 tomato plant in 1 pot. I also have several other pots. I just kind of keep them from buying all my plants. So here in the barn, these are just all pots that I can use for tomatoes. These are probably a bit small for these indeterminate tomatoes I have, but I have this large one, this ginormous one. It's plastic, so it's not heavy, and then several other large ones I can use. So I went to Home Depot today, got some more potting mix and 1 bag of raised bed garden soil. And if I run out of potting mix today, I'm not gonna go back today and get more. I'll just plant what I can in these pots, stick them out in the garden, and hope for the best. One issue with also raised beds in the desert, but pots in the desert as well, is that they tend to heat up faster and tend to lose water quicker. So I'm actually making more work for myself, because I will also have to drag a hose over there every day or every other day to water these individual pots, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I do it anyways because the beans that I planted don't have drip irrigation on them. So I guess it's not that much of a big deal, but I would rather plant the plant and get tons of tomatoes or peppers off of it than have these plants go to waste. That was a whole bag of potting soil just for 3 pots, which stinks. What you can do with these pots is similar to what you can do with the raised bed if they're large enough. You can put like organic matter on the bottom to help fill some space. Just remember that you do want at least a foot of soil for whatever plant you put in here to be able to send down roots. And then you don't want to really use a lot of wood chips because they do rob nitrogen from the soil as they break down. But in the effort of saving soil, I'm probably going to leave these as is, even though they're a little low. I've got plenty of soil in here for a single plant to live, and then I'll just cover the rest with mulch. And I will put some more in here, but I will not fill it all the way to the top. I think it was a good idea to put peppers in this large one because that took a lot of soil. It would have been a waste of space if I just put one tomato plant in there. But what we have today is, I have a Berry's Crazy Cherry tomato who has some flowers that we need to pick off. And a German pink tomato. If you notice the difference between these two tomato types, this is a potato leaf variety. See how it looks more like a tree leaf? And this is the standard tomato leaf style. That's a fun little fact. This Berry's Crazy Cherry is a yellow cherry tomato variety. Produced well for me last year, even though it was sick. And then the German pink is one that I've grown before that is a delicious pinkish red slicer variety. Both of these are indeterminate tomatoes, so they will need to be trellised, but when we're done planting, I will show you how I'm going to do that kind of in the raised garden bed. So these lower leaves are looking a bit crunchy. I believe this is old damage from when it was stuck out in the frost, when I was hardening them off. I don't see any other leaves that look terribly stressed, but it really should be potted up by now. It's been in here a while, so I'm glad to be getting this in the pot. Now what I will need to do for this soil is add some fertilizer because although it is organic, those bags are pretty cheap. They're 10 bucks at Home Depot, and it shows they don't have a whole lot of nutrients. And obviously this is brand new soil. It isn't established in the raised bed, so there's not any, fungi, terribly good microbes in here. It's just basically potting soil. So I will have to regularly fertilize these throughout the summer months anyways. But what I like to do is just grab a handful of really any organic fertilizer I use. I picked this up at Home Depot one day while I was there. But generally I tend to use Fox Farm brand the most. I'll just grab a handful, sprinkle it around in the hole. Maybe work it in a little so that the roots aren't in contact with just direct fertilizer. And you want to dig a deep hole for tomatoes. See how along the stem right here it has little hairs? And tomatoes will actually grow roots along their stem if you bury them. So in the wild, when we're not trellising tomatoes, they're actually more of a sprawling plant, and they will set down roots along their stem and just keep growing like that, obviously until they're overtaken by disease. But planting tomatoes deeply, like this is probably where I'll plant him too, that'll encourage root growth all along the stem and just make him an overall healthier, more established plant because he's got more roots. So we're gonna set you real deep. Get that fertilizer in there. And because tomatoes are so prone to disease, you really want to trim off any of this foliage that's touching the ground. I'm only going to do it to this lowest stem. This one right here, just take my nail and chop them off. And I'll probably come back at a later date and take this one off as well. But because he doesn't have too much foliage up here, I don't want to stunt him and make him lose all of his food producing capabilities right when I plant him. So I'll leave this on for a little while until I see some more leaf growth coming out the top, and then I'll pinch this guy off. And I'm also going to add some worm castings just in here. And he's all done. Last thing would be to add straw mulch, which I will do after I plant the rest of these. After looking at the size of this pot, I'm starting to think 3 pepper plants might be too much. But I'm gonna do it anyways. Because I have plenty of pepper plants if these don't live. So what I have here today are just red and green chilies. Red and green hatch chilies. Oh no, this is a banana pepper and 2 red chilies. Oh well. Just go one at a time. Now pepper plants do not have the same qualities where they grow roots along their stem. So burying them deeper doesn't really do anything for them. It may actually harm the plant if you do it too deep. But I have buried them at least like half an inch deeper before if the stalks were getting a little tall and it looks like the pepper was gonna break. I've buried them a little bit and it's never hurt anything. But they aren't going to grow roots, so it's not really a benefit either. I think, yeah, I'll just plant 3. I'm pretty disappointed that I planted quite a few pepperoncinis and I was really excited to grow them this year because I've never grown them before. And I tried to pickle banana peppers last year and they did not taste good at all. So I really wanted to grow pepperoncini so that I could pickle them and have, you know, pickled pepperoncini peppers. But almost none of them survived. I think I maybe have 1 or 2 left in the garden and the rest have died off. Or they just didn't grow very well, and I don't know why. It was only with those plants. Well, that's not true, because I've been having terrible trouble with the Sugar Rush peach as well. They grow very slowly. I've already had 1 die in my garden. I don't know why. And I was really excited about that variety too. But fear not, I've started more seeds. Let's get these pots out to the garden and I will show you how I plan to trellis them without having to buy another trellis. Does anyone else always end up drinking their water with soil in it? I'm convinced I drink way more dirt than the average human being. So what I did last year before my potted tomatoes met their untimely demise was I just put them next to my bean trellises, and as they started to grow up, I just used the very edge of this trellis, which usually doesn't have any beans growing on it because as you can see it extends beyond the bed. And then I would prune these heavily to make sure I just had 1 single leader, 1 stem going up that I could tie to this 1 bar of the trellis. And that's what I'm also going to do with these potted tomatoes. Now the peppers don't need trellising, I'm just going to throw them somewhere. I don't know where yet. But I think I want most of my potted plants over here on the north side of the garden, because when I bring the hose in, it's always through that gate on the south side, and I tend to knock a lot of things over with the hose when I'm walking with it. So I want the potted plants out of the way so I don't knock them over. So I got all these babies covered with straw mulch. And midday is not the time to be transplanting plants, but it is the only time that I have to do it today because I will be busy later in the evening. So, gotta do what you gotta do. I have a few things I want to show you guys. Look at these chive blossoms coming up. It's gonna be so beautiful when they fully open. Look at how beautiful that is. And I have a single Bright Lights Cosmos bloom, which is gorgeous. Covered in ants, but gorgeous nonetheless. And I have more and more potatoes coming up every day, which is really promising. I also, this morning, covered this area with cardboard and then mulch because it was getting really weedy and I didn't want the weeds to start coming into my raised rows here. If I was being smart, I would have done the transplanting this morning, but it's really hot right now and I don't want to be doing manual labor in the middle of the day. So, oh well. And I've got some chamomile blossoms. I've already picked one, but I think in a few days I will have enough to pick and dry for a cup of tea. Which granted isn't a whole lot, just one cup of tea. But this plant's pretty established, so I hope having one plant I can pull enough blooms throughout the entire summer that I can start storing it up and hopefully have enough from one plant to sustain me all winter. I highly doubt it, but hopefully. I'm still waiting for this hardneck garlic to send up scapes because I'm really excited to replant this bed with peppers when I harvest all the garlic, and I am just not seeing any scape formation yet. I feel like that may be a little tiny one coming on, but I think it's still going to be several weeks before I harvest any of this garlic. And when I said I'd planted seeds earlier, I planted a lot of pepper seeds because I've decided that I'm going to re-sow this bed when the garlic's done with peppers. And if I can keep those tomatoes that I already have, if I can keep potting them up and they stay healthy, I think I'm going to make this a tomato bed, another tomato bed when all of these onions are done. But these still have a while to go. So whether I plant tomatoes in here or not is going to be very dependent on when I harvest the onions, because the tomatoes are going to take at least 100 days, you know, to start bearing tons and tons of fruit. Especially if I start more from seed right now. I'm not sure that these onions are going to be done within the next month, and I'm not sure that those tomatoes I already have in pots are going to last another month in pots. I might just end up giving them away. But if not, that's fine. If I end up, you know, not harvesting these till July, I know one thing I can plant in there that will do really well and grows really quickly are beans. So this will become a bean bed if I can't do tomatoes in here. But I started some anyways, just in case. Alright guys, I'm gonna go inside. I don't want to give you a full garden tour because I plan to do one this week. I probably plan on doing garden tours maybe every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, at least until the summertime, because it's really hot here in the spring and everything tends to grow really slowly. And until I get that shade cloth over the structure, which I haven't put up yet because the days haven't been consistently in the 90s and I don't want to inhibit growth by inhibiting sunlight without needing to. But once I get that shade cloth up and plants are a little bit more established, because I barely transplanted them out a couple weeks ago, they will start picking up their growth rate, and then I might have something to show you every week and a half. But until then, nothing's really changed, except for the potatoes, because I'm getting more and more potatoes every day. Everything's just growing real slow. It's hot and it's windy, and it's really hard for a plant to enjoy its life inside in those pretty little pots and then come out here to this hellscape. So, but I have beans. I have tons of beans in here, folks. Almost 100 bean plants are going to be coming up soon, and I am so excited for that journey. And I don't think I'm going to plant any more tomatoes or peppers in pots because that's my last bag of potting soil that I bought today, and I think I need to pot up a lot of those tomatoes that are in the front still. They're getting a little big for their britches. So I'm gonna go do something inside where it's cool and I will catch you guys on the next one.